Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Science of Reading program webinar series, Bringing the Science of Reading to Life. My name is Mary Gallo, and I'm on the literacy team here at Amplify. We are so excited that you've joined us today to learn more about Amplify Core Knowledge Language Arts, CKLA 3rd Edition, a content-rich curriculum that brings the science of reading to life. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll share the recording link and presentation deck via email later this week. You'll also receive a certificate of attendance for joining us. If you'd like to access closed captioning, please click on the CC button in the bottom tray and then Show Captions. Be sure to register for our other webinars at amplify.com/2026 SOR webinars, even if you can't make all of them. We'll send out recording links for all webinars that you do register for. We welcome comments in the chat. And to start, let's find out where everyone is joining from. I'm joining you from Delaware. We've had crazy weather in the beginning of the week, like a lot of the East Coast, but it's finally settled down. I think we're starting to get into warmer weather. So I'd love to know where everyone else is coming from and what weather you're experiencing. All right, wow, I'm seeing lots of different places in the chat. That's wonderful. We have people from all over. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session, Beyond the Early Grades, Building Foundational Literacy Skills for Grades K through 5 with Amplify CKLA 3rd Edition, presented by Nora Wadkiss. Nora is a literacy product trainer on the training and enablement team here at Amplify, with a focus on Amplify CKLA and Boost Reading. Drawing from over 8 years of educational experience as school leader and special education teacher in New York City, she brings deep expertise in evidence-based literacy instruction grounded in the science of reading and has extensive experience supporting students with diverse learning needs and closing foundational skill gaps across elementary grades. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you all. And let's go ahead and get started by looking at what we are going to talk about with our time together today. So here's our agenda. We're going to first start with the science behind Amplify CKLA, and then we're going to do a high-level Amplify CKLA 3rd Edition overview of the curriculum, and then we are going to dive into grades 3 through 5 skills lessons, talk about our digital platform, and then we'll close out with our wrap-up, and you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions, and we'll have some open Q&A. So without any further ado, let's jump into the science behind Amplify CKLA. So Amplify CKLA is a key part of Amplify's early literacy suite. And that is a family of programs built on the science of reading that all connect with one another. So in order to maintain that healthy literacy ecosystem for all students, there must be an assessment system in place to track student growth. And an evidence-based system of assessment includes assessments for learning, such as those M-class diagnostic assessments and the universal screenings with Dibble's 8th edition, which you learned about in the previous M-class webinar if you attended that, and the assessments of learning, which is where Amplify CKLA fits in, because all of the formative and summative core curriculum assessments, that frequent progress monitoring is all included within the program. So M-Class and Amplify CKLA work together to really create that data-based decision making. And so with that, we are going to dive more into the science behind Amplify CKLA. So we are the original Science of Reading program where systematic skills instruction and intentional knowledge building is within our DNA. Amplify CKLA's research-based foundation has been at the heart of our program for the past decade. And the reading rope gives us a framework for how students learn how to read. And it's based on the simple view of reading. It tells us that students need to both develop their word recognition and their language comprehension skills in order to become proficient readers. And this is exactly how Amplify CKLA's curriculum is designed. And it has always been designed this way. So in grades K to 2, there are two components to the program. We have the knowledge strand, which aligns to that language comprehension piece of the rope. And then we have that skills strand, which aligns to the word recognition piece of the rope. And then as you're looking at the rope, you'll see how those strands become integrated. And so does our curriculum. And that really appears in grades 3, 4, and 5. So in grades 3 through 5, there is one integrated strand of instruction. And you might be familiar with the simple view of reading, where language comprehension along with word recognition leads to skilled reading. And also in Amplify CKLA third edition instruction, we're also taking into account the simple view of writing with composition skills along with transcription skills leading to skilled writing. And you'll notice here that the language composition and the language comprehension and composition skills for writing are right next to each other. And that's because word recognition and transcription skills are reciprocal in nature, right? Skilled readers and skilled writers will be doing similar things. So you'll see in our Amplify CKLA third edition program, writing is baked into the curriculum and happens throughout alongside the reading and comprehension instruction. So thinking about that simple view of writing approach, those composition skills really focus on knowledge. So what do you know about what you're writing? Focusing on word choice, on syntax, on that overall text structure. Whereas those transcription skills are focused on the handwriting and the spelling, thinking about transcription skills building to automaticity like word recognition. And we certainly need both transcription and composition skills in order to have legibility and clarity in what we're writing. And so that is the process that we are using in Amplify CKLA third edition to make sure we're not only developing skilled readers, but also skilled writers. So with the science, we are going to now move into our Amplify CKLA third edition overview and understand the program at a high level. And first, I'd like to turn it over to some of our current Amplify CKLA educators so you can hear directly from them what their experience is with our curriculum.
CKLA isn't only helping academically, but it's helping socially. It's helping them to learn how to talk and communicate with other students.
My grandpa rides all the rides with me.
When I see students making the gains that they are making and they feel accomplished and they're reading whole books and they're parading through the hallways doing a Chinese New Year celebration because that's part of a second grade knowledge unit, or they're excited to invite you into their room to learn about tall tales or about fairy tales. I go home every day uplifted with a sense of accomplishment that as one of the people who was put in charge of making this choice, we made the right choice.
All right, so now that you've heard about the impact, we're going to dive into each of the program components, starting with the Skills Strand in grades kindergarten through second grade. So the Skills Strand is more than just phonics in 60 minutes a day. The instruction covers phonemic awareness, handwriting, decoding, writing, and truly so much more. Students learn sound spelling correspondences through explicit and systematic instruction, and each new skill is introduced through phonemic awareness. And then students and teachers get to map the sounds to the letters through that explicit phonics instruction, engage in handwriting practice and activities, apply those sounds in connected texts, such as our decodable readers, which I will show you in just a moment, and then being able to respond to text-dependent questions orally and in writing. So students will be learning to read using those Amplify CKLA readers, which are 100% decodable, which means they're only including words with letter sound correspondences that have been explicitly taught. They support students in cracking the code, mastering story elements, and accessing increasingly complex text. So there will be no guessing, no cueing, just students reading successfully. And you can see here some images of how beautiful our decodable reader covers are, making it exciting for students to want to dive in and get started on their reading journeys. Students will also have authentic reading and writing practice. So as the student activity pages, which are shown right here on the screen, they really allow for deliberate practice of the skills instruction that they've been receiving related to grammar, decodable text, spelling, lots of opportunities for students to get that hands-on practice. And of course, the writing process is there. So writing is embedded within the program. And in the skills strand, writing begins with those pre-writing skills starting in kindergarten and expands to words and sentences, and then develops to writing across all genre types. So students will have experience with information writing, narrative writing, opinion writing, lots of different experiences. Poetry is included too. And students read and write using the code knowledge that they've learned in the classroom. So thinking about now our kindergarten through second graders, they also have that knowledge strand. So we're going to take a look at the program components of the knowledge strand in kindergarten through second grade. So with Amplify CKLA third edition, there is that powerful refreshed knowledge sequence, and students engage with a wider range of people, perspectives, and high quality texts in new and exciting enhanced units. Students are getting to dive into science, social studies, and arts topics to really build a robust knowledge base that strengthens reading comprehension and writing composition. And students are going to grow both within and across grade levels. And the knowledge strand is more than just building knowledge, but it's developing vocabulary and writing every day in context of rich and engaging topics. So lessons in the knowledge strand include four main components, starting with introducing the read aloud, then listening and discussing the book, and then students have a chance to apply the learning through a writing activity. And then finally, that wrap up part, where after the lesson, there's an opportunity to review and assess students to check for understanding of the concepts that they just learned and also plan for the next day. So as you can see here throughout the lesson, there are those built-in opportunities to review and assess student understanding of the learning from the read aloud that just happened. Again, making it really data-driven, and you're able to get that in the moment feedback from your students. There's also explicit vocabulary instruction as a part of the daily instructional routine in the knowledge strand, and that's what we like to call word work. And these are short activities that support student learning of vocabulary that is more difficult to acquire implicitly. So these activities are designed to be delivered immediately following the read aloud to allow for that immediate application of that academic vocabulary. And then writing skills continue to progress throughout our knowledge strand as well. So that complexity is going to build throughout the domain. Students are taught the writing process, and they get to use drawing and writing to apply their learning from the read aloud they just did. And our kindergarten through second grade students write across all genre types multiple times a year. So now we're going to move into our upper elementary grades and look at what the integrated strand for our grades 3 through 5 look like. So by third grade, students are able to weave the two strands of the reading rope together. So that word recognition and language comprehension become interwoven as students become skillful readers. And as they move on to those more advanced skills, things like grammar, morphology, all building on what they've learned in those younger years in K-2, truly deepening their skills and their knowledge. So you'll see in third grade, the instructional time is 120 minutes a day because that includes that read aloud component. And then fourth and fifth grade, the instructional time for CKLA is 90 minutes a day. So they also are going to have high quality, beautiful text. This is an example of some of our colorful readers. And again, just like our decodable texts, these are really exciting. They're fun for our upper elementary students to dive into and read because they look absolutely stunning. And students truly can't wait to open these books and be able to see these images and really dive into this curricula. Students are reading increasingly complex texts. They're exploring the rich content. They're strengthening communication across multiple domains like reading, writing, speaking, and listening, all through this integrated strand approach. And so students are going to be introduced to the unit by building and making connections, digging into the text to learn the content while utilizing their ELA skills and strategies. They're writing to apply their learning through those quick writes and having those opportunities for longer, more formal writing opportunities. And then also being able to show what they know through the checks for understanding and the other formative assessments that are baked into the curriculum. Students may interact with multiple texts over time by listening and reading independently or with partners. And they also have those close reading opportunities to allow students not only to practice their ELA skills, but to develop a deeper understanding of the content. So throughout CKLA, students are also able to use graphic organizers, structured templates, and they have revisioning and editing tools to support the writing process. And writing is integrated into the instructional block rather than being taught in isolation. So students are going to write about what they've been reading and learning and listening to make all of those skills really interconnected. Another really exciting part of the curriculum is the culminating research unit that is in every grade. And it includes these carefully selected trade books for each grade level. And instruction models inquiry research with students conducting an independent research project that includes a topic selection and getting to be able to use primary and secondary sources as they present their project at the end of the year to the class. So let's take a look at what that process looks like. So with our research unit, the structure is standardized across kindergarten through fifth grade, starting with teachers getting to model that inquiry and research process. Then each student is going to develop a research question and conduct that research. And at the end of the year, students are getting to share their findings through presentations and through writing activities. And these research units continue that powerful and proven instructional approach to inquiry and writing. So that is a really exciting thing that students look forward to every single year, to be able to get to that end of year research unit. So thinking about some of the other fun aspects of the curriculum, let's talk about choice units. So districts are going to have 2 choice units in every grade level, and choice units may support cross-curricular learning or even align to district or community values. But no matter what choice your district makes, all standards will be covered. So there really is no right or wrong choice. It's just giving options. And every grade has those 2 choice unit options. But what is special for grades 3 through 5 is that students have the opportunity to experience a novel study. And districts can choose which novel works best for them. There is a contemporary option and a classic option. But again, no matter the choice, students are going to love it. Teachers are going to love the ease of teaching this unit. And each unit comes with a novel, an activity book, and a teacher guide. And standards are going to be covered regardless of what choice of novel you choose or your district chooses for your school and your class. So now that we talked about the entire integrated strand and what that looks like, we're going to move into grades 3 through 5 skills. So in Amplify CKLA third edition, we have something really special. We have something for upper elementary students to be able to support their foundational skills, starting in grades 3. And then we have it for 4th grade and 5th grade in this coming back to school season, which is really exciting. So many students enter into 3rd grade still working to master decoding and fluency. And this unfinished learning at this stage can have an everlasting impact. So by providing instruction that is targeted, respectful, and effective at closing those foundational skills gaps, really helps support our older learners to be able to close those reading gaps before they widen. So grades 3 through 5 skills is designed to get those foundational skills back on track. And they're really flexible. They can be used daily or as needed for practice for students who are still developing things like decoding or fluency. And that really makes it easy to use in real classrooms because it's easy to teach in short bursts of time, or you can use it as a structured part of your intervention blocks. But grades 3 through 5 skills is specifically designed for our older learners with that explicit systematic instruction that is age appropriate, respectful, and effective at being able to close those foundational skills. It's also important to understand that this is an optional supplemental resource. So you can use it if it's needed for your students, but it is not required for standards coverage. So we know that every student learns differently. So it's important to meet their individual needs. And so this program can be used as a whole group supplement to the core instruction, or it can be used in small groups for remediation and intervention opportunities. So as a result, these are flexible resources where lessons can be taught for 30 minutes a day for half the year, or 15 minutes a day to cover the entire year. So again, flexible, use it in the classroom, use it during intervention blocks. It really just depends on what you'd like to do. And what's also really nice is that grades 3 through 5 skills is aligned to the science of reading. And again, it's providing those opportunities for our upper elementary students to have that foundational skills instruction that is so necessary for any of those gaps to close as students become older and are moving into not just learning to read, but of course, reading to learn. So the materials for grades 3 through 5 skills includes everything that you need, starting with the teacher guides. So the teacher guides outline the structured lessons with built-in guidance and routines. And there is one teacher guide for every unit, and there are 4 units total. And they're organized the same way as our Amplify CKLA third edition teacher guide is organized for core instruction, making it really easy to use. And there's going to be that unit introduction at the beginning of every unit, which gives that specific information for what the unit is about. You'll also receive the activity book Blackline Masters, which aligns to student practice for decoding, fluency, and vocabulary work. And there's 2 activity books, each containing materials for the units. And teachers will use these Blackline Masters to make copies for their students. And then it also comes with the assessment guide, which is going to measure students' progress and also identify opportunities for instruction. And there's one assessment guide for the program, which is going to include the student pre-test pages, the post-test assessment pages, and the answer keys. Directions for the assessments can also be found in the teacher guide. And then finally, you will receive those digital teacher presentation screens for grades 3 through 5 skills, and they are available for each skills lesson, just as they are for all of our Amplify CKLA 3rd edition lessons through Amplify Classroom. And we're going to, once we get into the digital components, I have a video in here to show you where all this stuff actually lives on the platform and what it looks like. But first, let's take a look at our 3 through 5 skills lessons at a glance. So you can see that the daily lessons are providing focused practice in things like decoding, fluency, multisyllabic word reading, chunking strategies to help unlock longer words with confidence. And passages feature grade level appropriate topics and lexile levels. So students can strengthen their foundational skills with, again, age respectful text. Instruction also covers phonological awareness, phonics and word recognition, morphology, reading comprehension, and encoding, which of course is spelling. So grades 3 through 5 skills is systematic, it's explicit, and it's cumulative. And each lesson is made up of 5 lesson segments, which are divided into those two 15-minute parts. So you'll see that there's part 1, which is 15 minutes. It has the warm-up, the phonics or the decoding, the morphology work. And then part 2 is that additional 15 minutes where the reading and the phonics and the encoding instruction takes place. So here's an example of part 1 and part 2 of a 3rd grade skills lesson. And you'll also notice where that arrow is pointing, we have those multilingual and English learner tips for emerging, transitioning, and bridging multilingual and English learners right there at the point of use. Here's an example from 4th grade skills for part 1 and part 2. And you'll also notice that there are those differentiation tips that are right in the sidebars to help support or to challenge students, depending on where they are, making learning really accessible for all learners. And here is an example of grade 5 skills. And one thing I'd love to point out is that we have those wrap-up questions that are included for after the discussion of the reading portion to tie all of the learning together. So that gives you a sense of what 3 through 5 skills looks like if that is something that you need for your students beyond grade 2. So now we're going to move into the digital platform to see those unique digital features that Amplify CKLA 3rd edition offers. So first, we're going to take a look at how the curriculum materials look within the digital platform for specifically grade 3 skills.
Click Grade 3, then scroll down to Foundational Skills. Now click Grade 3 Skills. Start by selecting the unit. Then click the Unit Overview page. Here you can locate the unit summary and the overall learning outcomes. Just below, you'll find resources for the unit. You can access the PDF version of the teacher guide, activity book, and assessment guide for the unit assessments. These resources are designed with the same consistent layout and structure as the core unit materials, making them easy to navigate and use. Now let's dive into a lesson. Click on Lesson 1. Lessons mirror the core lessons in both structure and presentation, so again, the experience will feel familiar. At the top, review the primary focus of the lesson, the formative assessment, and the standards. Note that these may vary depending on the edition. Scroll down to view the teacher presentation screens. This is where you'll find the teacher moves as well as the preview and present buttons to guide your instruction. Each lesson can be taught in one 30-minute session or split into two 15-minute parts, with slides in the teacher presentation screens clearly marking the break. Access the resources for this lesson just below the screens.
All right, so that gave you an idea of what it looks like, specifically for grade 3 skills in the platform. So speaking of those teacher presentation screens, as was mentioned in the video, Amplify CKLA 3rd edition lessons come with those ready to use and customizable presentation screens for teachers to deliver those interactive lessons. And those materials will be in Amplify Classroom. We also have auto-scored digital assessments in our kindergarten through 2nd grade knowledge strand and our 3 through 5 integrated strand. In addition to standards-based reporting features that provide that visibility into which standards and activities will help the entire class. And additionally, a really special component of our digital program is our skill building practice games, which are available for grades kindergarten through 2nd. And this is where students advance their skills with digital activities powered by Boost Reading as a part of Amplify's comprehensive literacy suite. And these games are designed exclusively for Amplify CKLA 3rd edition lessons and provide teachers with that immediate feedback on student performance. And another support tool that comes with Amplify CKLA is the Intervention Toolkit. And here you will find hundreds of activities to support phonics, fluency, comprehension, handwriting, and other key skills. This intervention toolkit is accessible for all grades, kindergarten through 5, because it's organized by skill. So you can be a K through 5 teacher and use the intervention toolkit, really depending on what skill it is that your students are working on. So all of that is at your fingertips with Amplify CKLA. So now we are going to move into our wrap up and get into some questions and answers.
Thank you, Nora. All right, we do have quite a few questions. So the first one I'm going to start with is how does CKLA 3E utilize print and digital resources?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Amplify CKLA 3E or 3rd edition seamlessly integrates the print and digital resources to support diverse teaching methodologies and classroom needs. So the program is going to include those essential print materials, things like the teacher guide, the activity book, the trade book, image cards. We have spelling cards, and they really do enhance that hands-on learning and student engagement experience. And then we also have that integrated digital assessments where we're providing that detailed reporting, the immediate insights, and enabling educators to make those data-driven decisions. So this is a comprehensive tool that equips teachers with the versatile tools for effective literacy instruction.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next one is what options are there for implementing CKLA 3E grade 3 through 5 skills?
Yeah, that's a great question too, because grades 3 through 5 skills is one of our newest components. And so what's important to remember is that these are extra lessons that are optional for grades 3 through 5 students. And they are designed for our students in upper elementary grades who need the additional time and support to build foundational skills. So teachers do not need to provide the lessons in sequential order. Instead, they can flexibly select the most relevant lessons based on students' needs. And we do have those 2 flexible pacing options. Option 1 being one 30-minute lesson, which combines both part 1 and part 2 together, which would be 90 days of instruction or like 1 semester. And then there's option 2, which has those 2 15-minute lessons because you're splitting part 1 and part 2, providing 180 days of instruction, which essentially is a full year or 2 semesters.
Wonderful. Will grades 3 through 5 skills be included with the purchase of Amplify CKLA 3E?
Yeah, so grades 3 through 5 skills for this upcoming school year will be included with the Amplify 3E purchase. So that is super, super exciting. 3 through 5 skills will be available for this Ready for School 2026 school year. So that will be with your purchase if you are a new purchaser for Amplify CKLA 3E.
Wonderful. Okay, another question that we had is, are there major differences between the Skills Strand in second edition and third edition?
That's a great question. So there are no major differences in the skills strand for second edition and third edition. The changes for 3E really came through in the knowledge strand. So you will see basically identical or like very, very similar parity when it comes to K2 skills in second edition and K2 skills in third edition.
Perfect. When do you recommend teachers and students do the culminating research units? Is there time to get through all the units while still allowing time for research units? And then are these research units included in the second edition? If you need me to repeat anything, please let me know.
Yeah, no, that is great. So the research units are in third edition and they are part of the program. So they're actually written into the pacing and to the scope and sequence already. So if you are following the instruction as outlined, you will get to a research unit every single year, and there is one for every single grade level. And it's usually at the end of the year. It'll be like the culminating, the end, or like the capstone unit that students get to look forward to each year. So if they've done CKLA for a number of years, they'll probably be excited to look forward to what's our research unit in first grade, in second grade, in third grade, because they all are different trade books, but they're built into the actual curriculum itself. So hopefully you get to experience it, but if you're using our pacing guides and our scope and sequence, it does have time for those research units to come to life every year.
Fantastic. Thank you for answering that. Another question in the chat was, if we purchase third edition for implementation this year, will we automatically be sent skills for grades 4 and 5? We only received it for grade 3 this year.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So grades 4 and 5 can be purchased separately in that case. So if you have CKLA third edition already, it came with grade 3 skills, which is awesome. And if you want grades 4 and 5 skills, because again, that is an optional part, it's a supplemental. Some schools use it, some schools will not need it depending on their needs, but you can purchase those a la carte for grades 4 and 5 skills if you'd like to.
Fantastic. Someone else asked, so are these grade 3 through 5 skills new, and will they be available for next school year?
Yeah, so they are new. We had grade 3 skills with Amplify CKLA third edition for this school year. So those of you who are using it now, you probably see that it's live. And also, if you're a second edition customer, you do have access to grade 3 skills as well. So that was new for this year. And then what's new for next school year is that we are going to also offer grades 4 and 5 skills. So skills instruction will be available as an optional opportunity for all grade levels next year. It's built into the curriculum for kindergarten through second grade. And then it's that optional additional supplemental resource that will now be offered starting next school year for third, fourth, and fifth graders.
Fantastic. Okay, and one more question we had in the Q&A box was, are the ARG and DERG included in 3E, or are they different than 2E?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So those resources are still available for 3E as they were for 2E. And those are, again, optional things that you can use to reinforce instruction with your students. And so you will still see that that option is available for you if you are a third edition customer as well. We do have all of those ARG and DERG resources available for intervention, remediation, and additional support.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I think that's all the questions we had, Nora. So thank you so much for your time
Yeah.
and presentation. It was fantastic. Thank you to everyone who participated in the chat. So if you would like to join us for another webinar, we do have one coming up on Thursday, April 2nd that focuses on ELA. You can register for this and other webinars at amplify.com/2026 SOR webinars. If you can't join live, they will be available to you on demand. Thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.